So behind me, there's a stack of tires, and over here is a more different stack of tires, and they're not mounted on rims, but I've got rims around here for them to go on. In fact, I've got some fancy chrome rims. The thing about it is I'm real apprehensive because, well, those tires cost more than the car. Like, not even kidding. Tires are so expensive. I don't know what I paid for this tire, but it was a heap. I mean, a lot. Many of dollars. But it is kind of the penultimate, in my opinion, hot rod rear tire. It's an 8/20/15 Whitewall. Some people dig the black walls. Not my bag, man. I bought these back in September, I think. It is now late February. But I didn't want to mount it because, well, I didn't want to get flat spots. So, but now, I'm gonna do the right thing and try to mandle a $400 tire onto a rim right here on the garage floor. So I've got a rim, classic kind of chrome. It's not like a reverse chrome wheel or anything like that, but it's it should look kind of very late 50s, early to mid 60s kind of, I don't know, beach party, hot rod kind of look. I don't know if I can jam this thing on here or not. It does have a valve stem in it, so we're gonna use a ton of soapy water. We're gonna try to be gentle, and if I can get it on there, that'd be great. If I can't, I guess I'll take it to the tire shop. But, you know, can't fail if you don't try, right, boys? Yeah, that's gonna be a hell of a thing. So, we got a moving blanket on the ground, soapy water everywhere, which we'll never have too much of that. Cardboard under everything. I guess I'm just gonna try to jam it on there. The first part shouldn't be as bad as the second part, but all right, well, it's just time to bite the bullet. We're gonna load up our rims and our wheels, pay a man to get them put on and balanced. Yeah, I don't know why, but it's got me all puckered up because these tires cost as much as that whole car did. So here we go. It's gonna be rad though. I'm kind of nervous and excited to see what it looks like with the wheels on. All right, we're all loaded up. We're gonna go from heap to hot rod in a jiffy. So here we are. I didn't say they weren't sharp looking tires. I'm conflicted, mostly happy, because man, that looks super, super cool. On the other hand, holy smokes, they're expensive. We'll talk about that in a bit more. Let's do them some justice. We've got to, we can't just, we gotta do something here. So let's clean up. All right, we're slightly more straightened up. It is now time, some sort of moment of truth. I don't know why this feels so ceremonial, but I think maybe it's because I actually never peeled off the cash for a set of 8/20/15s before, because they're so spendy and there's no way around it. Last Model T I ran 670/15s on all four because got a good deal on a used set, and that's the way that it was. But let's grab them out of the truck. I mean, you can kind of see the big and little. That's the big and that's the little one. They're not as extreme big and littles as people like to run today. I'm not into the tiny the 560 Volkswagen wheels or whatever. If you are, that's great. Holy smokes. That's gotta go quite a bit. Gang, I am absolutely resisting the urge to slap the fenders on this thing right now. It's, let's see. Yeah, it's really hard not to. This thing has got the stance to it. That's quite a process. There's a ton of money represented here, but I'm still super happy with how it's looking. In fact, I kind of forgot how long this car had been on jack stands, and so seeing it a couple of inches lower with the stance and the rake and the whole thing, this is officially at ride height. The suspension is loaded. The wheels are mounted, the engine is sitting on it, all of that stuff. So it's not too low, it's not too high, it's higher than is trendy, all the stuff that I wanted. So yeah, I'm pretty jazzed on it. Wheels and tires are a big deal, so let's go through the basics. We're not gonna talk about trends or eras, maybe we will a little bit. I don't know what we're gonna talk about, but let's just talk about it. All right, so what you see behind me is a classic case of rubber rake, meaning the rear tires are taller than the front tires. So they all tires have an aspect ratio. That's aspect ratio, is that right? All tires have a ratio. There's the rim size, which is your diameter, 15, 16, 17, 14, 13, whatever it is, inches. Then there's the width. In our case, we have 820 15s on the back. And in the front, we have 670 15s. Now, as the tire gets wider, the sidewall height grows. So you'll see that the 820 15 is not only wider, but it is also taller than the 670 15. If you look sort of straight down the car, the width of this thing is less than the width of that thing. It's the general gist of it. What you can see is a classic rubber rake, meaning the rear tire is taller than the front tire. So if you had totally stock suspension, totally stock, if you put a tire on the rear that is larger than the front, it essentially will lift the back of the car, giving you a rake, a made out of rubber rake. This has been hot rodding regular, normal stuff since forever, basically. And the trends have changed and the reasons have changed, but essentially, the 820 15 is about as big as you can go on the back for a 15-inch in a classic sort of bias ply style. And then in the front, they go all the way down to, I think, a 500 15, I think is right. I think that was like the super trend to have like the really skinny, really short, front wheels. We're not talking T-buckets that have like little motorcycle wheels. I'm getting off track here. The birth of hot rodding involve putting a bigger rear tire on because that essentially changes your gear ratio, right? Bigger rear tire will give you more top speed. It'll be slower off the line, but it essentially acts like a gear ratio changer. So if you were going for speed records and you need more top speed, the bigger rear tire will get you there without changing your gears. You know what I'm saying? 820 15s. So the 820 is the width of the tire, the 15 is the rim diameter, and as the width grew, the sidewall also grew in the ratio, which is why, a modern car has three numbers, 235, 75, 15. Well, the 235 is the width in millimeters, I think. The 75 is the sidewall height in millimeters, and the 15 is the diameter in inches. These early bias plies just grew at a ratio. So you can look it up and see what the sidewall height is or the overall diameter on any given tire. Obviously, these are coming from Coker because they are the maker of most of these Whitewall tires. So what we have here is the 820 15 on a Craigslist rim. Now the thing about the rim is you can get into the back spacing, which will adjust where the center of the wheel sits over the bolting face of your hub, brake drum, axle, whatever you want to call the mounting surface. If you need to figure out how to measure this and how that affects your rear end, check out this rear end video. Let's move to the front. This is a 670-15 Firestone gum dipped reproduction by Coker. I've had this thing sitting around for a really long time. Too long to mention on camera because the tire, we'll see how long it really lasts. Coker says these things can last kind of forever, but we all know rubber also degrades over time. Got these at a swap meet, didn't get anywhere on my project. I've had them forever. I unwrapped the plastic on them today and got them mounted on these rims. Now these rims, I ordered from Jags. Why Jags? Because they were the cheapest. These are 6-inch wide chrome rims that I got for under $100 a piece shipped. So these are 670 15-inch tires on 15 by 6-inch rims. The internet says you can't do it. Well, I did it. Trying to get steel wheels that fit over disc brakes is a lot more difficult than you would think. Mostly because people don't really like plain steel rims, and all of the cars that came with 15-inch rims and disc brakes, well, they stopped getting made in the 90s, it feels like. Late 90s, early 2000s. You'll find that the older rims don't fit over disc brakes, and that's something you need to consider if that's something you want to run. This is a larger tire than people typically run, well, than is trendy to run right now. You build your car to fit your style. Now there's something else noteworthy here. When you're mocking up your car, there's 1,000 videos in this series where I'm doing chassis work or suspension work, and you need the ride height and the suspension loading to be correct. When we were mocking all of this stuff up and getting it sort of tacked in place and measured and calculated, in the front, I was actually using this 616, but you can see, hopefully you can see, that the tire heights are the same. Now I measured this tire height, and off the Coker website, I got that tire height, and I said, well, that's close enough. Now the reason I didn't put these tires on sooner is if these expensive tires sit for long enough, they'll get a flat spot on the bottom that will just, it'll give vibrations and all sorts of no goodness. In the back here, I have another original Firestone 82015. See it right there, but it's interesting because the tire behind it is clearly at least an inch taller. I don't think that's gonna be a major factor. The rear radius rods do have adjustment, but I'm going to be aware of that when I'm checking all of my angles and putting the engine in and all that jazz. So you gotta be aware. You want similar tire sizes to what you're actually going to run when you set the stuff up. Those measurements are indeed on the Coker Tire website, and you know, you can take the diameter of the wheel and just measure to the center of your hub and sort of like mock it up that way if and you need to. While we're diving in, one more thing for you folks who are new to hot rod tire selection or whatever, let's just kind of talk a little bit about eras. So these bias plies with, you know, this pie crust sort of edging, the zigzag pattern, this was kind of the thing up until the late 50s. In the 40s, it was more Blackwalls, so they basically just look like that without the white wall. I believe it was about the early 50s that the white wall started becoming popular, and then by the end of the 50s, tire design was kind of changing. All right, gang, so towards the end of the 50s, tires kind of changed style and they changed the way they were labeled. So the rear tires on the Model T are 82015s. The tires I have on the rear of the 54 Chevy are actually G7815s. So the width was no longer done in inches, but rather by a letter code. You'll also see the pie crust has been replaced by a not quite radial, but not quite, you know, pie crusty looking thing. These are also bias ply tires. Eventually, these bias plies were replaced by the modern radial that everybody knows at this point. It's got a much rounder sidewall. It doesn't have the peak, doesn't have like the stand-up tread thing. This is what's on your car today in some form or another. Why does it matter? I don't know, you tell me. Basically, you can run whatever you want to run. The radial tires are guaranteed to be the best ride. Just, they're gonna be. I don't think anybody can argue with that. But, you know, side by side, I don't think there's any mistaking. For a hot rod, to me, the bias plies just look way cooler. And if you're new, to this type of stuff, you know, they do make a radial with Whitewalls, but for anybody that's into it, it's easy to spot from a mile away. The shape of the tire is just so different. So you do whatever you want to do. If you want to run a Whitewall tire that's a radial, that's what I've got on the Cadillac, and I'm perfectly happy with it. Kind of looks at home on that car. If you want to run something like that on your hot rod, man, you do you. But as far as me goes, that's it. All right, gang, thanks for watching Between the Sharks. If you have subscribed already, I can't thank you enough. If you're thinking about it, please go ahead and hit the button. There's no better way to support the channel, and it's totally free to you. Good luck on your projects out there. We will see you next time when we swap this motor for that motor and continue on down the line on our 1927 Ford hot rod project. See you next time on Between the Sharks.